Hey, I'm Ryan with Escape Climb. I'm going to show you how to install this unlimited board into the drywall above this doorway, and then I'm going to show you how to patch it up, if you ever take your hangboard down. Alright, so we just moved into this house and we're going to put some hangboards in. So I thought that'd be a good chance to just show you how to do it. We're going to put one hangboard in the basement where the ceiling's pretty tight, and so we're a little more limited. Up here off the living room I have a little bit more space, and so there are going to be two different setups. And as I said in a different video, the most effective hangboard is the hangboard you use. And so for us, that's finding hangboards that work off the living room aesthetically and functionally, and then also in our basement. Pretty much every hangboard you install is going to have a backer board. And the reason that is because every doorway is going to be a different width. Some are pretty wide, some are pretty narrow, and your studs are always going to be different. There's no standard in any house as far as studs go, and so it's going to be very rare that you could ever take a hangboard and just install it wherever you wanted to. The only case that's going to happen is if you have a big exposed beam and you can just put that hangboard right in, maybe like the exposed beams in your garage or basement. But in this situation, we have drywall. I don't see what's behind here, and so the first step is to get a stud finder. And so you can just go pick these up at any hardware store. I already found the studs. I have a stud right here at the edge. We have a stud in the middle here, and then I have a stud on the outside. So for this setup, I'm going into 3 studs. Just generally thinking about construction, the way these doorways are set up is you're going to have 2x4 studs or 2x6s running all the way through just inside the jamb here. Once in a while, if it's a load-bearing wall, you might have a big header board coming across. In that situation, you could probably install right into. That's going to be a little more rare, but your stud finder is going to let you know. And then sometimes you're going to have a single stud, sometimes you're going to have 2 more studs in the middle, and then sometimes you're just not going to have any studs and you're just going to have the outsides that you're mounting into. Alright, so now that we found the studs, now I just simply measure the doorway. And so I'm going to measure outside, so on this edge to the frame to the outside over here, and I'm right at 37 inches. And I know my studs are right about here in the middle, and so going on the outside I'm going to hit my studs, and it's going to look clean as far as just the aesthetics and the line going up. I'm 13 inches from the top of my door frame to the bottom of my ceiling, and so I don't need to go full 13 inches for the board. So we're just going to cut that at 11. That's going to be plenty of room with even some room to spare on the outside and the top. Alright, so I got my measurements here, and then I also took the measurements in the basement. And I sent those measurements to the guys at the shop, and at Escape we can do custom backer boards for you. You can also just go to the hardware store or cut it if you have scrap wood. But in this case, you can see I have 2 different doorways, and they're very different backer boards. This one's really skinny to fit between the doorway and the ceiling, and it's much narrower too. That's a 33-inch door. Up here in the living room we have a 37-inch door, and so that just shows the variability between your doorways, what your backer boards are, and why we offer custom boards. So on this one, since I have a little bit more room, when we're doing custom boards we can put a nice slogan in there like this, and so this is to remind me when I'm feeling that pain, there's gains that are paying off tomorrow. Alright, so now this is the easy part. You've already done the hard work of finding the studs through some drywall and getting those measurements, and now that we have the backer board, it's easy, we just throw it up. And so the holes are already set here for me. I have my handful of screws, so I don't drop them all. So we have the first screw, and as you can see it's a little wonky, and that's not a problem because we just have the center one in here, and so now we're able to pivot it. And so if you have a level, great, get the level on there. If you don't, we can just measure, and we can just measure and level off of either the ceiling, oops, 1 inch and 1 inch. So I have a perfect 1 inch on both sides. That's looking pretty level, and now I'm just going to zip in the rest of the screws. Alright, the mounting board is in place. We hit our studs and now it's time to just screw in the unlimited board. When this was on the ground, I just put some hash marks in so I knew how to level it, so I didn't have to do this up here. And I'm just going to find my quick lines. Alright, now we have a fully installed unlimited board above my doorway. You know, it's just that easy. Once you find those studs, make that measurement, get that backer board in, you know, it's going to go pretty quick and you are up and running with your training. So the Betaboard is the best option for our basement. And that's mostly, you know, because we have the 6.5 inches and the Betaboard can fit fully on the backing board. And I still have just enough clearance to get in here on the top rung. You know, with this jug, my knuckles are popping up. I have pretty big hands and I really only have about a 1/4 inch clearance. And so it works perfect. I'm gonna be able to still get my good lock-offs in. You know, my head will be pretty close to the ceiling. But this is an example of if you have 7.5 foot ceilings and you have 6.5 inches, you can get a Betaboard in, or any low profile board like some of our smaller micro Betaboard. All right, inevitably at some point in your life, this hangboard's probably gonna come off the wall. And whether you're moving or things change, when you take it down, you're gonna be left with some big holes in your drywall. And that's not really a problem. So I'm just gonna take this down quick and just show you how to deal with the drywall and how to patch that up. All right, now that the hangboard is removed, we're left with a whole bunch of holes. So I have 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, I have 13 holes that I can quickly patch in, okay? And so one of the big mistakes is people come in and they might just take some spackling paste or some plaster and just patch in these holes and then paint over it. But what you'll be left with is you're gonna see all the bumps. So you can totally tell that there was something screwed in here. And so the kind of trick here is each one of these, when the screw backs out and goes in, it's gonna leave this, it kind of protrudes out. And so I'm just gonna take a box cutter here and you can either cut it out and so this is a bigger one, you know, and these are bigger as well. And so sometimes you cut it out and other times you can actually just dent in your drywall. And pretty much we just need to make a little crater there. So rather than it pushing out, we just need to crater it back in. So you can either cut it out, a little circle like that. All right, now with all the holes, I've either cut them out or dented them. That way I have a nice smooth surface to deal with on all of them. I just went to the hardware store, grabbed a spackling paste. They're gonna have like 10 different varieties. It doesn't really matter which one you pick up. They're all gonna be pretty effective for this. And so just grab a knife. If you have really small holes like this, you could use a finger, but you know, the putty knife here is gonna be really handy. And so I'm gonna do 2 coats. I'm gonna do one right now. I'm just doing it really, really pushing it pretty hard into the hole. I'm just gonna hit all the holes here with a quick coat. One tip here, like when I leave this, if I leave a bunch of mud, or even, you know, a little bit like that, that's gonna be hard to sand off later. So I'm pushing pretty hard and I'm trying to put it on, push it into the hole and then remove it all. Pushing in the hole, removing it all. If you see any air bubbles, then just keep working those out. There we go. You know, less than a minute, I have those all patched in right now. So now that they're patched in, I'm just gonna let this dry. This will take, each of the spackling pastes take a different amount of time. Some are fast cure. Once this dries, I'm gonna lightly sand it. And then on some of the bigger ones that I carved out, I'm gonna have to hit those a second time. You know, depending on yours, max 3 times, which is probably gonna be 2 coats, and then we're gonna be ready to paint this. So I've shown you how to install your hangboard. I've showed you how to patch your drywall if you've left some holes. For me, now it's time to get this thing back on the wall so I can start training.